Am I late? Guess not. Alright, cool. The iceberg meme is one that's always fascinated me. I'm a big random fact guy, so icebergs are right up my alley. And if you've been to this channel before, you'd know that I'm a massive Plants vs. Zombies fan. You can see where I'm going with this. Unfortunately, almost every PvZ iceberg out there disappoints me. No disrespect to any of the iceberg creators out there, but they all feel incredibly lackluster. None of them really dig into what icebergs are known for, which is obscure, weird, and mysterious stuff. It's tiring seeing the same 3 topics discussed on every iceberg, and I'm sure many of you can agree. Dissatisfied, I and 7 of the most knowledgeable people I know got together and made a massive PvZ iceberg. Before we dive into it though, I want to mention that this most certainly isn't everything there is to see. There is so much we had to leave off of this iceberg for a multitude of reasons. For example, this pea shooter concept art by one of the lead art directors of PvZ2. Why is it not in the iceberg? Because we didn't know about it while making it and only discovered it after finishing it. Also, thank you so much to all of these people for helping out with the creation of this iceberg. It wouldn't have been possible without y'all. Many of these people, plus 3 others, will voice their own tier in this video, so it isn't just my voice for however long this video is. With that said, let's see how much you really know about Plants vs. Zombies.
Hello! Yeti Zombie is probably the most well-known secret about PvZ, as it was only in one level in PvZ 1, that being 4-10, on the second adventure run. It's since had an appearance in every single PvZ game aside from Plants vs. Zombies Adventures. This entry refers to the achievement hole in PvZ 1, where scrolling to the very bottom reveals Chinese zombies. Peking Express is the name of the achievement you get for scrolling to the bottom. In the earliest versions of PvZ 1, the dancing zombie very obviously resembled Michael Jackson, more specifically his costume from the Thriller music video. Ironically enough, a month after PvZ 1 was released, Michael Jackson had passed away, so it looked like a cruel joke to some. The estate of Michael Jackson objected to their use of the dancing zombie, and asked for it to be removed entirely. So it was, and can be still found in very old versions of PvZ 1, but otherwise, it's nothing more than a talking point. Mustache mode is one of the many hidden codes in PvZ 1, and is probably the most well known out of the bunch due to the achievement based off of it. When typing mustache at any point in PvZ 1, every zombie will get a mustache. Other codes you can use without having the Tree of Wisdom at a certain height are Future, giving zombies futuristic sunglasses, Tricked Out, changing the lawnmower's appearance, Souk Beer, changing the zombie's brain sound effect, and Up Up Down Down Left Right BA, playing the sound effect of picking up a seed slot on the Choose Your Seed screen. Currently a very topical glitch in the PvZ community, in PvZ 2 there's barely any music or sound effects, and the glitch has gone on for over a year. Hemophilus _EA, an official PopCat member, has gone on record saying, in the case of the iOS 14.5 music issue, it's a pretty complicated problem because it involves an incompatibility with Apple firmware. The sound infrastructure we have has been in use for many years, with lots of people having contributed to it various ways over the years the game has been around for. Also, it's mostly custom, which also involves a non-insignificant amount of reworking and time investment from multiple disciplines, e.g. engineering, audio, etc. As with all the teams, in games or not, we also need to balance against existing and future work that needs to be done on other things and prioritization. Sometimes, issues do require additional help from external teams or partners, which adds another level of complication to things, particularly on bigger problems." End quote. To sum it up, basically it's a very complicated problem that involves a lot of different pieces and work. And the reason why it hasn't been fixed yet is not a lack of trying. We don't want it hanging around, but it is a massive, very difficult and complicated task to fix. The Limbo page is a page filled with a bunch of unused but mostly finished minigames, such as Unsighted and High Gravity, cutscenes such as the intro scene and upsell, and unused survival modes. The page is only accessible with cheats. The infamous ice level can be found here, but ice level will be talked more about in a later tier. There's also an unused minigame called Squirrel that cannot be found on the Limbo page, but it is still worth mentioning. On Neon Mixtape Tour, Day 32, right before the fight with the Zombot multi-stage masher, Zomboss references Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. Ouch! Dead Plants EXE is a pretty popular PvZ creepypasta. Not really much to say here other than it is incredibly cliche and is nothing more than your average low-quality creepypasta. On the Zomboss Estate map in Garden Warfare 1, there was a Slenderman Easter egg, deep off in the out-of-bounds area. In Plants vs. Zombies 1, there is a very small chance for a zombie to play a special death animation. This is only possible if it is currently eating a walnut, and the zombie can be seen having an allergic reaction to it. There's also a not as rare death animation for the Zomboni. In Garden Warfare 1, there were 4 sponsored characters, those being Berry Shooter and Citrus Cactus as part of a promotional event with Aquafina, and Chester Chomper and Dr. Chester with Cheetos. None of these characters made it to Garden Warfare 2, but their weapons can be found in the files and are mostly intact. Aquafina fucking sucks. Oh my god. Zombotany is an unused PvZ1 song and can be found in the official PvZ soundtrack. According to the Plants vs. Zombies wiki, it was supposed to play during the Dr. Zomboss fight, but it was ultimately replaced with Brainiac Maniac.
Hey, I'm Voup, and I'll be your host for the second part of this video. Like every game ever, there's going to be concept art. PvZ1 has some of the most well-known concept art of the entire franchise, such as these kid zombies, a magnetron with teeth, a buckethead painter, a Seashroom with a fat head, a mother zombie, and Split Pea with a buddy. There's too much to go over, so we'll end the entry here. Over PvZ2's almost 10-year lifespan, a lot of things have been removed from the game. Most of these don't really deserve an entry by themselves, so they're part of this one. Power Pinch was a power-up removed in the 1.9 version, quickly being replaced by Power Snow. It was pretty difficult to use and certainly much less useful. Almost all of ancient Egypt can fit in this category, with the amount of levels that have been replaced in favor of an easier tutorial over the past couple of years. Insanity was an epic quest that randomly generated 5 levels a day, and was removed in the 7.9.1 version. Possibly a coincidence, but Insanity first appeared in 6.3.1, the version to remove the ultimate battle and minigame tracks, which continue to be incredibly memorable songs to this day. Like the last entry, there is way too much to go over, so check this stuff out on your free time. Speaking of the minigame songs, Big Wave Beach never had one, and nobody really knows why. In a Q&A, Peter McConnell, the composer for PvZ2, has said that he himself has no idea why this track was never made. There's a lot of what-if fan-made versions out there, but why there's no official one remains a mystery. It is speculated that PopCap simply never requested the creation of the song. Zombie Time isn't really a mystery or anything, it's just an obscure song that plays if you check PvZ2's credits. There's a surprising amount of people who have never heard of it though. In PvZ Heroes, if a plant hero plays a shrinking violet, the zombies will obviously shrink. However, if you then play a zombie card that hides zombies in a gravestone, for example, Mixed Up Gravedigger, the graves will become massive in size, and so will the zombies when they come out. Due to how PvZ2's coding works, when a zombie is knocked back by plants like Primal Pea Shoot or Chard Guard, they're technically in the air and are still able to be pushed away by Blover or Hurricane. Now imagine this, but with spring beans plant food. This was a completely legitimate strategy that PopCap officials actually knew about and enjoyed. Then it was just completely removed in the 6.7.1 version, the version that Arena came out, so many speculated it's because of that. Funnily enough, you can achieve the same thing with Reinforcement and Blover, which completely nullifies the bug fix. There's a really common misconception surrounding what really happened to George Fan, that being that he was fired by EA for not approving microtransactions in PvZ2. That couldn't be farther from the truth, actually. According to Fan himself, he was laid off, which is completely different from being fired. To sum it up, being laid off is the employer's fault, while being fired is the employee's fault. He also didn't even work on PvZ2 and wanted to work on new games. He considered PvZ1 to be his perfect game and didn't feel the need to work on a sequel. If you select a plant and don't touch the screen until after the level ends, you have the ability to place the plant on the plankless tiles in Pirate Seas. Not much else to say here. On the final level of Frostbite Caves, if an ice block is thawed whilst the level ends, a zombie spawns and just walks off screen. Like the entry before, that's all there is to it. Very early on in PvZ Heroes' lifespan, the goat had 2 classes, already an anomaly. Not only that, but it was a zombie minion, and the 2 classes were both plant classes. You may be thinking, okay, that's reasonable enough, as at this point in time, the only way to get a go was with Rose's Goatify, but no. The 2 classes were Kabloom and Smarty, and Rose isn't a Kabloom hero. What was PopCap smoking? In every PvZ shooter, there has been some point in time where the team swap glitch was active and abused. If you don't know what that is, it was a glitch that gave you one team's primary weapon, abilities and animations, but was on the other team. So you could be on the zombies team as a pea shooter or on the plant as an all-star. Yeah, so a bit of backstory here. Back in late August of 2020, there was a bug that made Chomp's melee attack's fire rate go incredibly high, simply by just constantly pressing the attack button and the reload button. With a faceplate upgrade, having it so Chomps may be critical hits, you could do over 500 damage per second with them. It was completely mental. It was so bad that a devs had to remove Chomper from all multiplayer servers. He didn't return until early September. This entry just refers to the wacky fake PvZ2 leaks from the early 2010s. They were just fan-made drawings in the PvZ1 style, leading to some actually really cool looking designs and some not so cool ones. Something odd though is that 4 of these drawings were turned into actual plush, albeit by an unlicensed company. Just a small Easter egg, if you scroll up really far in PvZ Heroes Deck Builder, there's an upside down walnut. Laura Shigihara actually composed music for Pirate Seas, but it went unused after she left PopCap. For a while, all we had was an old PvZ2 trailer confirming its existence before Laura found it on her old computer, then uploading the full track to her channel. According to her, she didn't know it was ever used at all.
Hello, this is TheShero voicing Tier 3 of this segment of the Iceberg, Below the Surface, because I'm a big fan of icebergs, and I love all icebergs. Due to the game's massive failure and the unfortunate pandemic, Battle for Neighborville stopped getting content updates pretty quickly. If we data mine this game, we can see how creative and ambitious the team was, since there's a lot of unfinished content that could never see the light. The most known is Iceberg Lettuce, almost completely finished, though it's not the only character, since there's also a Swarm Super Bean and Berry Brigade. Another popular one is Ops Phase 3, a rework to Garden and Graveyard Ops, which would add cool upgrades and perks to the game mode, obtainable with its own currency. There's also unused legendary upgrades and customizations, and some cooler things, NPCs for events in Giddy Park, and the Gnome Tag game mode. Throughout the PvZ franchise, there are many mentions of organizations such as LEAF in Garden Warfare 2, Bloom and Doom Seed Company is another, and can be found in an abundance of theories related to game lore. A random fact about the company, according to the official guide to protecting your brains, Bloom and Doom was founded by Barbara Jones back in 1968. The United Plants Association and the Zombie Solving Center are briefly mentioned in the Chinese games, and not much is really known about them. Drill Engineering College, the University of Z, along with many other academic associations, also brought up in many places. The Chinese PvZ books are a rabbit hole in and of itself that honestly deserve their own iceberg, so we really won't go into them. This entry is just to let you know they exist, and if you're so inclined, go have a wander. We've all seen random PvZ bootleg games in Google Play. There's no need to explain this. I can literally just hop on my phone and list a couple. That's how easy they are to find. We have Merge Plants, Plants vs Goblins 3, Flower Zombie War, Zombie Harvest, and way more. Garden Warfare 1 has some wild concept art. That alien looking bee shooter that gives everyone nightmares is pretty popular. There's also SWAT Zombie, which is originally Foot Soldier, and Gravedigger, originally Scientist. There's some more concept art like an unused all-star ability, an energy drink that would make him really buff. Like every other time we've gone over stuff like this, there's too much to cover in one entry, and you should go check them out in your own free time. Not many people know that Flag Zombie underwent an interesting change, though hardly noticeable. In Garden Warfare 1, it would give other zombies a speed buff. This was changed in Garden Warfare 2 to an armor buff, which is not easy to notice due to the lack of UI informing you of armor. In Plants vs Zombies Heroes, some cards that don't usually have ability animations play a hidden animation when they get overshoot. Most people know this happens to zombies like Surfer Zombie or Trickster, but if the game is modified to give plants overshoot, they also show special animations. Also, all cards have attack animations, including those with 0 attacks like Seedling or Lily Pad, just in case they're buffed. There are lots of unused PvZ2 plants, but many of those are pretty well known and obtainable in game thanks to modding. Some examples are Mini Pea Shooter, Burnade, Sun Pod, Sun Gun, etc. Just like Pirate Seas, Far Future also had different music during its beta. Here it is. PvZ has always loved making silly references to other pieces of media, such as movies or shows. These have always been subtle, like some description or flavor text, but the trailer of Garden Warfare 1 DLC, Zomboss Down, is an exception. The whole trailer is a reference to the last scene of the popular show Breaking Bad. There is apparently more out there too, but we're only focusing on this one reference. The original concept for Dark Ages are vastly different from what Dark Ages ended up becoming. There's a lot of unused stuff that's been uncovered, including 8 different plants, those being Scaredy Shroom, Cult Shroom, Roto Shroom, Dart Shroom, Zoom Shroom, Vacuum Shroom, Evil Shroom Speed, and Evil Shroom Toughness. Many of these plants have since been repurposed or had been used as inspiration for future plants and gimmicks, such as the 2 Evil Shrooms becoming potions and Doom Shrooms seeming like what would become Time War. There is also quite a few unused zombies, such as this barrel zombie and unused codenames for various other removed zombies. As far as we know, the main reason most of these went unused is due to how a lot of PvZ2's main development team left after Far Future's release, so Dark Ages didn't have the ample resources for such an ambitious world. Early in 2021, PopCap released a Google questionnaire to ask fans for feedback and opinions for future PvZ mobile projects. This questionnaire included concept art of a game never heard of until then, which looks like some sort of RPG. There's been no information ever since, and all we know about said game is what looks like a title screen and an in-game screenshot of Nightcap dodging an attack from a gargantuan. PvZ2 Chinese not only has, or rather had, a PvP game mode most similar to iZombie, but said game mode also introduced a character known as Evil Dave. This is not actually the Dave that's been with us since the first game, but rather his brother. Red-haired, with lots of cash, this character appears just to ridicule our beloved Crazy Dave. There is an unused area in the Turf Takeover map, Preserved Pastures, found to be left of the first point. Battle for Neighborville liked making Team Vanquish maps out of Turf Takeover maps, just like how Loggy Acres has Z-Tech Factory, or Town Center has Patriotic Pea. This area is suspected to be the remnants of an unfinished Team Vanquish map based on Preserved Pastures. Like every other entry related to game concept art and cancelled content, there's too much stuff to go over in detail, so a few honorable mentions. Beat from PvZ Adventures has full animations that were left unused, different types of flower pots where a plant to appear, and the leveling and the life system nearly made it in before being cut. When first entering the endless zone of Pirate Seas in PvZ2, they would greet you with, "Hi neighbor, welcome to Dead Man's Booty. I'd plunder that." There's no need to explain this joke, and I'm not gonna. Out of bounds glitching is a common occurrence in the PvZ shooters. Most of the time, they're used for discovering unused content outside of the map's boundaries, but there are times where some players abuse it in multiplayer matches, making it unfair for everyone else involved. If the Mint stays alive for long enough and gets too much health, it will just kill itself. This happens when it reaches the limit of 2147483 aka the 32-bit integer limit. Similar things happen in other games when this number is reached. It's not limited to PvZ heroes. Recently, concept art for DreamWorks' PvZ movie was found deep in the internet. The art, drawn by Peter Zaslav and Ruben Hickman, can be found on their websites, but each only has one public piece of concept art. Both Rick Werner, the artist of PvZ1, and Jeremy Van Hooser, the franchise creative director from 2013 to 2017, confirmed that these concepts were real, and it makes you wonder how a PvZ movie would turn out. PvZ Adventures, as it was shut down in 2014, has a lot of missing content that we will probably never recover, such as sprite sheets, music, and even just a version of the game. There are no known saves of any PvZ Adventures version, so all we have of the game is just all YouTube videos and screenshots scattered across the internet. This clearly problematic quote can be found in Battle for Neighborville when talking to Sergeant Peel and Mount's team. He would say this after visiting his shop during Founders. as this controversial line would be removed in the November 2019 update. How did PopCap not realize this could be easily misunderstood or taken out of context?
Hello everyone, I'm Craftex. I'll be covering the 4th tier of this Iceberg video. Hollow Earth is the deepest lore PvZ Heroes gets. It's hard to spot since they didn't make any comics for it to tell this story, but rather they told this story through several cards flavor text. This story takes place during set 3 and 4, Colossal Fossils and Triassic Triumph, after huge Giganticus smashes on planet with meteors dead. For example, Mustache Monument's description states if Neptuna's Triassic invasion forces can align all of the Hollow Earth's Mustache Monuments at once, she will become truly unstoppable. This lore didn't really lead anywhere, but it's a cool little thing that tried to explain where all the primitive carve came from. If you go deep into YouTube, you can find a trailer for a PvZ game which was expected to launch in 2012. Talking Zombata was just your average virtual pet mobile game, like Talking Tom. You talk to it, you feed it, and you give it absurd costume, obviously. Talking Zombata was never released, so it's safe to say it was cancelled. Other than this trailer uploaded to GameStop's channel, not much else is known about the game. A weird fact few people remember, as it was patched rather quickly, since this is from when Garden Warfare 2 initially launched, the title is self-explanatory. You used to have to punch plants in a short period of time, or your meter will go down before getting toxic overload. Weirdly, the excavator zombie has unused animation where he loses his shovel and walks and eats without it. It's implied that Magnet Shroom will have the capability of stealing the shovel, but was presumably left unused because of how the shovel isn't made of metal. It was actually used of early Lost City versions, albeit as an accident. If the player used a coconut cannon, the splash damage will knock the shovel out of Excavator's hands. Then it's just bugged out. The glitch was quickly removed. Gravedigger himself is already obscure, but there's more to it. In his unused textures, you can see SWAT Zombie, another zombie from the early version of the game, which was eventually replaced by Foot Soldier. This refers to the Zombie Wars of 76 from Imitator's PvZ1 Almanac entry, which most people assume it's 1976. Otherwise, Imitator is really old. It really leaves a lot of questions though, such as more details about the war, like what caused it or when it actually was, or even who participated, since you think you could see Gatling being fighting in war. Not many people knows this, since it's barely noticeable. Ice Shroom in PvZ1 has been proven to do the same amount of damage as 1p to every single zombie in the lawn. The more you know. Back in 2016, Make-A-Wish and PopCap collaborated to make a dream come true for an 8-year-old named Miles. Miles was in remission from Burkitt lymphoma, a type of cancer. He became an honorary Plant vs. Zombies team member, and PopCap developed a sketch that Miles made it into an actual plant. Weirdly, the plant somehow found its way into PvZ2 Chinese as Rotten Red, despite the fact that the devs never had permission to use their assets. Rotten Red was quickly removed after it was released and replaced with Dual Pistol Pinecone. There's a strategy to beat Dr. Zomboss in PvZ1, which is barely used due to how easy the fight is in the first place. Basically, Zomboss will focus on getting rid of your roof cleaners first, meaning that once a zombie reaches the end of a line and triggers a roof cleaner, it will not place zombies on that line until the rest of your roof cleaners are out. Weirdly, this doesn't work if a giant ice ball or fireball destroys the entire line, including the roof cleaner. Either way, the trick is letting zombies reach the roof cleaner of 4 lines, so you have to worry about defending the other one. There's a lot of information covering PvZ1 concept and early progress, but there were no documented early version of the game. They were essentially lost media, until recently. Back in October, the Chemist Zombie was able to get a hold of 2 different beta versions of the game from some of the original beta testers. And there's a lot of information that we got from them. For example, there's this backyard lawn, possible for a 6th area. There's also a lot of unused plants like Stinger, Iceberg lettuce, Cherry Overbomb, and Time Stopper. This early balloon zombie dogwalker was also in the files. There's a lot of placeholder art and too much stuff to cover here, so let's leave discovering the rest up to you. It's not often we see PopCap removing content from the game. However, the 9.6.1 update of PvZ 2, released in March 2022, surprised us with an odd change. Tile Turnip's Russian hat was removed from the shop. Just to make things clear, it was removed just from the shop, so if you have purchased it before, you can still use it. There's no confirmed reason for this, but if you haven't been living on a rock these last months, you know what's going on. This is a rare occurrence, but it does happen. In the video games, there are multiple instances of plants changing genders. This isn't a big deal, obviously, it's just kind of cool to mention. Just a goofy little guy, Squirrel Dave was found in one of the old PvZ 1 betas and was apparently meant for the unused Scroll minigame. Did you know that Plasma Pea originated from a Garden Warfare 1 character contest? Without Lefranc Estera, the creator of this concept art made for the character contest, we would have never had arguably one of the most broken plants in the game. Funny story regarding it, after his entry winning, Lefranc said, "Plasma wasn't really the idea in mind when I made this. It was supposed to be a blue fiery star-ish kind of thing, and it wasn't even supposed to be plasma in the first place. This was inspired by the sky at night. No wonder they named it Plasma Pea when I submitted this. I forgot to put the name." Rotten Red, as mentioned before, was a fan-made plant, and Shadow Fania, from the Chinese version of PvZ 2, is one too. This is exactly what it says, and may explain why Rock Pea and Painter feel wonky sometimes. When, for example, you move left and fire with Rock Pea, the projectile will deviate to the left of the crosshair. PvZ 2's microtransactions have constantly been a hot topic during its nearly 10-year lifetime, and just like with George Fan leaving PopCap, there's a lot of misconception and false truths around them. One of those is how they even appeared in PvZ 2 in the first place, with most crediting that to EA. However, according to many former PopCap officials, including John Wecky, a co-founder of PopCap, and George Fan, EA had virtually no role in adding microtransactions in PvZ 2. This clip of Anthony Coleman, a former PopCap member, really said it all.
PvZ 2 came out and it's a tablet mobile thing first, and like they're like, well, look at what EA did. I'm like, I think the most misconception is that EA forced any of that on us. Like, that was most of those choices, if anything, were all internal choices that were chosen long before we ever got bought out.
So yeah, there you go. Remember in the dialogues of 4-5 in PvZ 1, where Crazy Dave mentioned another person called Harvey Flaxcaster? Yes, that's the one. He's one of the many humans in the entire franchise, but he's the only one in the original PvZ 1 other than the player and Crazy Dave himself. He seems to have some kind of backstory explained in the Chinese books, but we will not get into that. The name of the entry is self-explanatory, but in Garden Warfare 1, there are 2 unused loading tracks found in the game files. As far as we know, it's unknown why they were never used. In Garden Warfare 1 files, Gravedigger was a spotting icon, suggesting that after he was scrapped as a playable character, it was turned into a ops boss. Obviously, this was scrapped too. Interestingly enough, Baron von Batz is internally referred to as Gravedigger. PvZ 2's PvP game mode, Arena, used to have a different name, that being battles with the Z, like birthdays, brains, or any other word pronunciated with a zombie. Why was it changed? In June 2019, the company Electron sued Electronic Arts for using the name of their trademarked game, Battles, Cars, and Dice game. Sounds stupid, right? Well, EA didn't want it to go on a lawsuit, even though they will most likely have one, so they made PopCap change the name of the game mode in the 7.5.1 update. Super simple. This is the official ship. A graffiti in Garden Warfare 1 shows a heart with brown coat and flag zombie written over it. Not even death could separate these two. Love always wins. This one is more of a silly joke. PopCap sometimes like putting stupid things where people can't see them, and this is one example we liked. If you extract the textures of Chomsila's signature power, Devour, you see a nice photo of a really nice monkey. On Moonbase Z, if you gather at least 10 people and have them all emote on this specific part of the first point, a giant moonworm will appear off in the distance. The same work can be seen multiple times throughout the map, including on the 4th point, where looking off into the ravine reveals the worm. It sounds weird at first. Since PvZ is a saga for kids, you wouldn't think they would use a word like sexy. Let me explain. Sexy Cache is the name of the game engine PopCap themselves made for PvZ 1. Odd name, right? PvZ 2's engine is called Sexy App Framework. Unfortunately, they stopped making their own engine and moved to Unity for their mobile games, and Frostbite for their shooters. So that's where the weird names end. There's an interesting explanation for this though. A beloved company that made PvZ wasn't called PopCap Games at first, but rather Sexy Action Cool. And their first game was a strip poker game, Foxy Poker, which gave them enough money for future games. So yes, PvZ exists thanks to adult content, and let's leave it at that. Mama was a pea shooter. Papa was a nut. I am a peanut. Rumor has it that Sunflower and Fire Pea Shooter started dating not too long ago. And now we have a Fire Flower. Yes, that's what the description of these two plants say. They imply that when two plants love each other a lot, they call the seagull to bring them a baby. Yes, plants reproduce. How many other plants were created like that? Probably a lot more, but only these two are confirmed.
Welcome, I am your host DreamyImpy, and this tier is where things get real. Part of Dress of Nomus is figuring out the correct order of numerous icons to obtain different passwords to progress on the DLC. However, there are some icons not used for that, like shears and plant food, which can be found only on the multiplayer portal and nowhere in the trials. Plants vs Zombies mini-programs is a collective name of Plants vs Zombies mini-programs released by TalkWeb. Most of them can be played in WeChat or QQ apps. Some had web versions which were discontinued, while others can be played at Bilibili and Chieba Baidu apps. Some of them are now discontinued and cannot be accessed anymore. That's what the PvZ wiki says. If it sounds redundant, it's not my fault. If you've ever seen a weird PvZ game that looked like a bootleg other than Zombie Mats, it was probably one of these mini-programs. There are a couple, just 29 in total at the time of this recording. They seem to reuse lots and lots of assets from the main games. Hell, PvZ 3D Merge reuses the old PvZ 3's assets. Like, who would want that? Why? Ugh. Upgrades work a bit differently in Garden Warfare 1 compared to Garden Warfare 2. Each variant gets 3, you get them from packs and they cannot be unequipped. Kemet Zombie's weapon works a bit differently since the projectile and the spread, which is the one that actually does the damage, are two different things. In Garden Warfare 1 the damage upgrade is only applied to the projectile, so the spread is unaffected and remains the same, meaning there's no extra damage. This bug is here since the upgrade is useless and cannot be unequipped. We've all seen this funny image of Chomper looking all happy with two round eyes. It's PvZ 1 concept art, so it's not really that weird, even though Chomper asks for a kiss on this image. Point is, there's weirder PvZ concept art. However, Chomper has had eyes on a couple of occasions after the official release of the first game. There's this particular Chomper plushie with less funny looking eyes and a nose. How did this pass quality control? My god! In Garden Warfare 2, standing next to your teleporter in Turf Takeover while playing Engineer heals it. Weirdly, roses can heal their teleporters, but it's not really that useful and it almost feels like an oversight instead of a cool small detail. But still, you learn something every day. Just like how Garden Center, a popular map from Garden Warfare 1, was brought to Garden Warfare 2 after being zombified and renamed to Aqua Center, PopCap have planned to bring back some other maps from the prequel. An example is Rain Street, a zombified version of the Gardens and Graveyards map, Main Street. However, this Rain Street ended up being replaced by Zombopolis, which coincidentally has an attraction that reads Welcome to Rain Street. Also, here's a cool fact, PopCap's bad at spelling because you can find there are a lot of files called Brian Street if you data mine the game a little bit. In PvZ 2, when you first play Pirates Day 25, the world's final boss fight, Dr. Zombos brings up a rather interesting and also worrying question. I've discovered a mysterious trait in your rattle trap time machine. Its temporal signature is nearly identical to my own creations. Explain to me, how was this penny created in the first place? It's also worth adding that in Plants vs Zombies Heroes, when fighting Rust Bolt, Dave doesn't seem to remember if he had made a time machine. Then again, Dave could have just forgotten, or maybe it hadn't happened yet, time is crazy, so it's really up to you here. Garden Warfare 2 content updates were supposed to officially end with an event that would lead to Battle for Neighborville. This event was called Tale of the Taco, and it consisted of 7 weeks of exclusive mystery portal game modes and special community challenges, starting July 16, 2019 and ending on September 2nd. However, Tale of the Taco was originally meant to be bigger. Aside from devious cheese lacking the gnomes attacking both sides mentioned in the event description, there was also a telescope you could interact with to talk to the magic taco on top of the town hall, and also a tier reward system. But in the end, we just got the events, challenges, and the opportunity to send the magic taco to hell with a poor, low-budget explosion. Also, cool fact, thanks to this tier reward system, data miners found a string of text containing the name of the following game, unknown by that time, Battle for Neighborville. A month after that, an unfinished trailer got leaked, a month after that, the game was released, and a month after that, the game was dead. Back in 2015, back when PvZ 2 still used to get new worlds, PopCap challenged Saxka to do the unimaginable, to be the unbeatable, to do the undoable, if that word exists. They made him beat that day's piñata party on fast forward without planting for the first 3 seconds. The reward was giving everyone a free world key. He beat the challenge to no one's surprise, since the piñata party was pretty easy, even my 4-year-old cousin could beat that piñata party. Either way, that extra key ended up being mostly useless, since you used to get a world key after beating the Gargantuar level, and less than a year after that, The Last World Modern Day was released, but thank you for everything you've done, Sascott. Ranching Zomboss was a hidden, invisible NPC in Garden Warfare 2 before PopCap removed it from the game. It could be found out of bounds just above the seawards by jumping in a specific spot. This NPC had 2 lines of dialogue, one saying there were no quests available, and then telling the player to return later, which the player could reply to with either yes or no. It's possible that this NPC was meant to be used for the whole top zombie story mode in the Backyard Battleground, but it's just a theory. During 2014, a particular Plants vs Zombies comic book was released. This one is called Plants vs Zombies Timepocalypse, and it's all about Dave, Nate, and Patrice traveling through time, if the title wasn't obvious enough, after Dr. Zomboss's new invention malfunctions in a shameful way, with pop smarts. I guess his Zombot Herotron 5000 isn't his first pathetic failure. Either way, they visit numerous time periods, some are already seen in PvZ 2, but there are a couple of surprises. They visit the 1980s on the second issue, and they have to deal with dinosaurs during the third one. This was new to the franchise because these comics were released from June 2014 to October of the same year, while Neon Mixtape Tour and Jurassic Mars were both added to PvZ 2 during the second half of 2015. So we could say that this comic foreshadowed these 2 worlds. Cool, does that mean the comics are canon? That will break the lore even more, that's great. When the 8th season of PvZ Heroes Ranked Multiplayer ended, players were met with an odd bug. Instead of Season 9 starting, the game said that Season 702 had started. This didn't affect gameplay in any way and was completely visual, and once this Season 702 ended, Season 10 started as it should. Ever since then, nothing similar has happened. There's been more game-breaking bugs, like the servers going back to set 4 and Classic whenever a card affected by a recent balance change was played, or the end of weekly events, but nothing similar to Season 702. The original name of the game was Plants vs Zombies 2, it's about time, smart playing words, you know, time travel and all that. However, they eventually dropped the subtitle and the name became Plants vs Zombies 2, just that. And even the Google Play name was changed to Plants vs Zombies 2 Free for some time, and after that just Plants vs Zombies 2. There was no Plants vs Zombies 2 Premium or something, don't worry. Some Garden Warfare 1 maps end where another one starts. For example, you can see Zombo's state while playing in suburban flats. This was probably made to give a sense of unity to the player, it's a nice small detail. According to one of the devs, this was part of some prototype. Originally, Garden Center and Top Town were connected to, and so were Sarkbite Source and Port Scallywag. Who is this person, you may ask? Well, if you play PvZ 2, you may have a few nice things to tell him. You know these epic quests, which feature extra levels for a few of the worlds. These levels, which were originally world expansions available all the time on their respective world maps, were all made by this one person, Sam Beatty. This includes the fan favorite Wild West Wipeout Zombo's Battle, or Wild West Day 35, he made that level. Now, let me remind you that sending death threats is unethical and morally wrong. Aside from illegal, don't do it, please. The PvZ 3 beta released on April 2022, which is also the last we've heard of the game at the moment of this recording, is actually from December of this previous year. This means that they made no real progress in several months. This makes me wonder if the same is happening right now. Come on, PopCap, prove me wrong and release a great game for once. Or don't, I don't care. I've accepted this saga is going to die sooner rather than later. Garden Warfare 1 has some wacky ideas since it was the first game, so it makes sense that there are some interesting concepts. Zombirus is an unused infection-like game mode where zombies have to avoid an enemy team full of chompers until they can escape. Like you would expect, if a zombie gets caught, he's forced to switch teams and play as Chomper. He got infected, Chomper is a disease. There are two different variations. One where zombies have to collect antivirals to survive until Dr. Zombies arrives, and another one where zombies collect radio parts and bring them to the middle of the map to escape. It's a cool, fun idea, but it's too different from anything else in the game, so that's probably why it was scrapped and left unfinished. Not that it matters, because normal PvP is enough of a chompocalypse. There's a really short segment from Watery Grips that was in mute, but it just repeats the last part of the song. Sir, could you please play that part of the song? You've heard of 1 Peter, you've heard of 3 Peter, but Wait, that wasn't part of the script. I'm actually stupid. I'm actually stupid. I'm on the floor. I'm on the fucking floor. I fell off the chair. You've heard of Peasurer. You've heard of 3 Peter, but I bet you don't know of 2 Peter. Not 3 Peter, 2 Peter. This character appears in some of the Chinese mini programs I've talked about earlier. Why does he exist? For real though, why does he exist? Apparently there's an explanation. I quote, "You know why these 2 plants have 2 heads? It's because most of the kids are products of inbreeding." Well, I guess that checks out. Twin Sunflower's PvZ1 description talks about some sort of forbidden science. That's really it. Samus's chair is on their map in Great White North. Weirdly, it has a death barrier attached to it, so you die when you touch it. I guess it makes sense that the Leader of the Dead sits on a chair that kills. Well, it makes sense for PvZ standards, where nothing really makes much sense anymore. Why is that chair there? No idea, honestly, it doesn't make much sense to me. Hardnut is a construction worker nut from the now closed Facebook game PvZ Adventures. His description states that, unlike other plants, he doesn't whistle at the sunflowers. This implies that Sunflower is a victim of sexual abuse, which is kind of worrying and also makes you wonder what other crude things plants can do. We're proud of you, Hardnut, you're better than them. Keep it like that, we love you. Either way, Sunflower gets sexually harassed. Have that in mind while I smoothly transition to the next entry. Sunflower is canonically wait, what? Yikes, that's kind of problematic. I hope you're proud of yourselves, Solar Flare fans. Well, fans. Anyway, the Plants vs. Zombies saga has celebrated its 13th anniversary this year, and in a special time event in PvZ 2, Dave and Sunflower interact. This is what they say. Sunflower, you can talk! Well, sir, Mr. Dave, most 13-year-olds can. It's not specified if all plants are 13 or if it's just hair. My personal, unofficial theory is that plants age with the saga, meaning that next year she'll be 14, 15 in 2024, and eventually she'll be 18. I don't know why I gave you that idea. I'll shut up now before I see anything stupid. Goodbye.
Hey, I'm Jay. Welcome to the 6th tier on the PvZ Iceberg. Both Gargantua Prime and Bugbot were planned to be in GW1 with unused textures, models, and sound effects. They ended up appearing in GW2 with new models. In GW1, there's an unused weapon called small_ass_teleporter. It was never used in any PvZ media, honestly. This is only on here because of the name. There are unused NPCs for unfinished Festivus and Valbrains events. Festivus event has you go around a giddy park to wrap anvils, very similar to the food fight quest. And the Valbrains event has these weird orb things that give you amounts of nothing when you get near them. The NPC tells you to go to Mount Steep to talk to the other gnomes there, but that's it. We can get them to load, so we don't know what happens next. Sucks to be you. Corsicana, Texas isn't home to a lot of things, but like many towns and cities, has a lot of stores. One of these is Crazy Dave's Insane Prices. Absolutely phenomenal. Ice Level is infamous in the PvZ fandom. It's an unused minigame only found on the Limbo page, but when you play the level, no sun falls from the sky, no zombies appear, your seed bank has been pre-chosen and all you can do is plant a walnut. Then after 30 seconds, a beagled noise plays, followed up by the game over music. This level has a lot of mysteries and theories behind it, with many players wondering what it had been used for. Well, the reason it exists, as confirmed by an old screenshot from 2008, was for an April Fool's joke. That's it. Ice Level was never meant to be anything except for an April Fool's joke. Although it did inspire the Yeti Zombie, so that's something. Ask a Zombie was a blog that ran from 2011 to 2014. On the blog, people could ask questions regarding anything, really. But most were Plants vs. Zombies related, and those Plants vs. Zombies related answers, if considered canon, which probably are not, because the website shut down in 2016, are pretty interesting. Obviously, some of these aren't meant to be taken seriously, like zombies creating the internet, but others may hold some relevance, such as how zombies grow smarter by eating more brains. There are unused UI textures for a Zen Garden and Gardevoir 2. That's all there is about it. Nothing functional or playable, just textures. The Wishing Well would have been available in the Backyard Battleground where players could give stars to the host of the backyard, but it was removed due to it being exploitative. There's a framed photo in Zomboss's office in Z-Tech Factory where a younger Dave beat a younger Zomboss in a science fair. There's a theory that this event causes the plant zombie war. At E3 2013, a pouch containing seed coins were given out to promote PvZ2. These coins did actually have some real seeds in them, with Snapdragon, Bok Choy, and Thyme seeds. In an old tweet in the official Plants vs. Zombies Twitter account, Stalia was seen with a mouth. Why they decided to give mouth to Stalia specifically for this image, I have no idea. The tweet was deleted shortly after it was posted though. Unused boss hunts. Gardevoir 2 originally was going to have more planned story boss hunts. There are a total of 7 boss hunt bait strings in leftover UI. Those bosses are Super Chili Bean, Imitator, the Orange Juice Robot, Pup and Wolf, Sasquatch, and Fiddles the Crab. Sasquatch was planned to be a story boss hunt instead of a town hall event, and his bait would have been a soup can. Sasquatch has an unfinished story hunt in the launch build of Gardevoir 2 on Z-Tech Factory, but it soft locks when he gets to the healing phase. You are probably familiar with the shadow plants from PvZ 2. Yes, the plants in modern day which get boosted when planted in shadows created by the moonflower. There's quite a few of them already, like Nectarine, Gloomvine, and the Chinese exclusive shadow plant, Shadow Vanilla. But what if I told you there's actually another one? It's the Shadow Jackfruit, the shadow version of another Chinese exclusive plant, Jackfruit. Well, actually, this shadow version is not really an actual plant. It only appeared on the thumbnail for an official walkthrough posted by the official WeChat account of the Chinese version of Plants vs. Zombies 2 for some reason. When asked in the comments, the account simply replied with "wait and see," as if it would actually be coming to the game in the near future. Unfortunately, the community manager of TalkWeb only responded saying that it's merely a joke made by the WeChat account. Rest in peace, Shadow Jackfruit, we will remember you. Cagayan de Oro is the city in the Philippines. It has a population of over 728,000 people, making it one of the most populous cities in the Philippines, and it was home to a 2010 prison escape because the guard was too busy playing Plants vs. Zombies. Someone was definitely fired that night. During the second anniversary of the Chinese version of Plants vs. Zombies 2, an escape room minigame was available on the Chinese website of EA. As the name suggests, the player would be escaping through a locked room, in this case, Dave's house. As no other than the very crazy Dave we are familiar with, the player would need to collect puzzle pieces and apparently different zombie profile pictures for extra surprises. Not much is known about this game except for the teaser images and descriptions given by the official posts. Unfortunately, this game has already been taken down from the website and all we can get to know about it is from various old news articles. Iceman is an arcade machine that's very obviously based off of Plants vs. Zombies. Look at this. There are zombies everywhere and there's very clearly a snow pea on the side. The handles are pea shooter heads and the actual gameplay very closely resembles the tower defense. It also has a golden chomper among other things. The backyard battleground was originally planned to be way bigger to where you could walk to the plant NPC bases instead of using portals. A screenshot to the prototype tunnel to Colonel Corn's base and the outside the gates can be seen in this video. There are 11 unused packs in Garden Warfare 2 that are themed on a competitive tournament. Names of each packs include Tournament 01 Winner Pack, Tournament 01 Loser Pack, Tournament 02 Winner Pack, Tournament 02 Loser Pack, oh my god, okay, it just goes on and on until Tournament 05 Winner Pack, Tournament 05 Loser Pack, Tournament Runner-Up Pack. Every winner and loser pack is a Wonder Tack of Greatness clone, while the runner-up pack gives you 100,000 coins. There isn't a first place pack. This is an obscure JSON file and PvZ2's files. You can't really do anything with it, but the name indicates that it's supposed to be a level. However, Landwire gives a really mysterious tone. Who knows what PopCap is going to do with this? A Rat is an online multiplayer PvP game for mobile devices. It's on this Iceberg because one of their playable characters, Ninja, looks suspiciously a lot from the certain mushroom we all know too well. It even uses the same animations. The eternal name of the Mega Flower is the Eye of Sauron. There is an unused AI for it where it's a stronger laser beam, being able to shoot lasers at the zombies. It was removed for making it way too hard against zombies. It also reused its laser beam potted plant version animations. That's fine and all, but dude, look at this beta design for it. Oh my god, what is that? What is Sun? It's such a vital part of the PvZ franchise, yet we never get an explanation to what it is. Well, not consistent explanations. There have been many different answers as to what Sun is, and almost always, the answers change. In the Garden Warfare games, Sun can be found produced by heal flowers, and said Sun is obviously health-related. Furthering this notion is the official guide to protecting your brains, where Sun, according to Dave, is the plant version of meat. However, in PvZ 2, in Buttercup's almanac entry, she refers to her Sun cost and Sun as a currency. Some Chinese PvZ novels enforce that idea, but also mention that Sun can be exchanged for coins to buy weapons. They also say that Sun has heat. Then there's the shooters, which Sunflower can be seen using Sun as a weapon against the zombies. Her damage upgrade, Supernova Sunlight, specifically says that she converts power of the sun into more damaging sun pulses. So what is it, PopCap? Will we ever get an answer? Probably not. There are multiple points during the franchise where the loyalty of the plants is questioned. Zomboss is constantly pushing this notion in his various speeches throughout PvZ 2. And if we consider the Ask a Zombie post canon, one of the blog posts mentions that the plants are only in it for themselves. Of course, this is only from the viewpoint of a zombie, but plants like Doomstrom give the implication that they wouldn't be against turning on the humans.
Hey, I'm 660NJ, but this is on my channel, you already know that. Let's dive into the final layer. Deep in a PopCap office somewhere, there was a PvZ Heroes fan art wall. On it was ship art. There you go. Apparently, in the Chinese exclusive game called Angry Birds Time Travel, there's PvZ sprites in one of the sprite sheets. Likewise, according to the PvZ wiki, in the Chinese mini program Plants vs. Zombies 3D, an Angry Birds epic sound effect is used when completing a level. These games are a lot more intertwined than you'd think, I guess. The name says it all for this one. A few graphics and files reference boss mode, mostly for its airstrike, but all of its functionality was removed from it not working. Hidden deep in BFN's files, there are unused upgrades for Acorn, referring to a confidence mechanic. There's almost no information on what this could be, so if I had to guess, it could be related to how Acorn turned into Oak just at a very early point in development. This is just a really obscure fact. Scallywag Imp does, in fact, have splash damage. It's just worth 1 hit point. And it's also incredibly small. 0.05 meters. On Far Future Day 8, Zomboss states that, in this year, your brains were collected ages ago. Thus, I think that it's a reasonable assumption that the player canonically loses at some point. Although this does take place over 300 years after modern day, so who knows. Justin Weeb, someone who worked on the PvZ franchise for over 8 years, essentially confirmed that Garden Warfare 2 was completely dead. In this tweet from late 2021, he states that there's nobody left on that game. It's being run by an AI called Steve, furthering the notion that the PvZ shooters were completely dead. PopCap Vancouver, the place where the shooters were made, was abandoned by the devs, and the PopCap Vancouver website was replaced with this. Seems they changed it back now, though. Wonder what that means. This is exactly as the title says. Caratillery's traditional Chinese name in PvZ Heroes is a slur. No idea how to pronounce this, but it translates to a slur against Japanese people. The same cannot be said for the Caratilleries in other Chinese games, though. In the other 2 games it's featured in, it has different names, those being Carrot Missile and Carrot Missile Truck, respectively. P-Bop Square Shooter is just the definition of cursed. He only appears as promotional art in one of the Chinese mini-programs, but holy shit, man. Cheater Cheater was an achievement in Plants vs. Zombies Adventures, only obtainable by, you guessed it, hacking the game. If the game detected you using the debug menu, you would earn this achievement. Your Facebook account would also get disabled shortly thereafter. Sorry, completionists. So I tried to stay as far away from the Chinese comics as possible when we were making this Iceberg, as that opens up a massive rabbit hole that I didn't particularly feel like going down, especially since only one person in our group can read Chinese. But I have to make an exception for this one. I need to emphasize that this comic is very likely non-canon, so take everything here with a grain of salt. There's a book series in China called Plants vs. Zombies 2, Weapons, Secrets, and Questions and Answers. Science comic. One of the books is about medicine and sickness. Now, I've never seen the book, or any for that matter, but the wiki says a lot of wacky things supposedly confirmed by this book, such as plants have hearts, noses, teeth, tonsils, blood vessels, and anuses, thus meaning plants can fart. Plants can catch malaria and chickenpox. Plants can get vaccinated. Plants can have OCD, ADHD, myopia, heart defects, and cancer. And zombies can give birth. Apparently, sperm and eggs are mentioned too. Yeah. I know this is just for explaining to kids how your body works, but if this is somehow canon... Oh no. Oh, good lord. It only just occurred to me what the... Well, if you know, you know. In Garden Warfare 1's files, there are old sticker book graphics from when the devs planned to make the cosmetics of character variants usable across the whole class. Among these files are engineer variant hats, one of which having the name Carpenter.png. Judging by how most of the other unused graphics of the same nature are all variant related, it's safe to assume that the Carpenter was, at one point, going to be a variant of the engineer class. But for some reason, it never made the final cut, and this PNG is the only thing confirming that it even existed in the first place. Back when Plants vs. Zombies HD was still around, there was a game-breaking glitch to iOS devices where the frame rate became incredibly unstable, all of the text was replaced with missing, and in some cases, saves were wiped. The game was completely unplayable. Apparently they fixed it a couple years later, but who knows? Why PvZ HD was officially removed remains one of the bigger mysteries surrounding the franchise, and I wonder if this had some role in it. I already have a video covering this topic, so you should go check that video out. This entry seems pretty self-explanatory, and is pretty self-explanatory. The characters, or at least certain plants and zombies, are aware that they are in video games. There aren't many examples of this, but the ones that do prove this theory pretty well. Starting off with the less obvious ones, Mega Gatling P's Almanac entry mentions the gameplay concept of upgrade plants, specifically stating, "I used to be an upgrade," says Mega Gatling P with uncharacteristic shyness. Now, I'm my own plant, with my own ambitions, dreams, and gym club memberships. The aforementioned Buttercup entry is similar in the sense that it references another vital part of the gameplay, the sun cost. Shinevine literally breaks the fourth wall. However, the most important supporting evidence is a hidden image in Zomburbia, where Zomboss has a certificate for being in Garden Warfare. Zomboss knows that he's in a game, and I'm sure everyone else does too. If not, PopCap has some serious explaining to do. Here's something weird. Pepperpult was found in the files for PvZ All-Stars, a now-defunct Chinese-only game, before it appeared in the international version of PvZ 2. Why is this weird, you ask? Well, what's generally agreed upon is that what's in China stays in China. I actually have no idea what the official agreement is between the two, but it's what was said in an old PopCap interview. So, Pepperpult appearing in PvZ 2 was really weird. In 2021, Ernesto AM, a well-known data miner, sent an email to Mark Barrett, the former lead artist of PvZ 2, about this. It was known information that Mark had designed Pepperpult, as it could be found in his website. Side note, you could also see the PvZ 1 crow and a full body of Zomboss. Mark later responded saying, "We were also at that time just beginning to think about premium plants, fun plants you could buy without having to earn that wouldn't break the gameplay. I designed most of the new plants and zombies at that time and came up with Pepperpult as a candidate for a premium plant. I went ahead, fully rated, and animated the plant, but partially because of the short deadline and some hesitations toward the idea of premium plants, Pepperpult got left out of the Dark Ages release, and then it just sat on the back burner. It wasn't until I was off the team and actually in the process of either leaving or having just left PopCap that the new art director said, "Hey, guess what? We finally put Pepperpult in." I am not at all familiar with the Shanghai-produced PvZ All-Stars, but I can say that our partners in China had full access to everything in the PvZ archive, and that sketch you linked to was indeed an earlier version of the design, where the leaves were a little more orangish. He also explained some other questions Ernesto had, such as why Coconut Bowler, Bamboom, and Ampliflower were scrapped, but I'm not going into those now. Pepperpult being considered as the Dark Ages premium is still funny to me, especially because of how many people find Peanut unfitting of being a gemium for the world. Imagine what it would be like with Pepperpult instead.
Just watch this clip.
Yeah, well, we're working on the story for Plants vs. Zombies 5, and so maybe we can use some of these ideas in the new Plants vs. Zombies game.
This is from 2013. I don't know what to say either.
CONOP 8888, also known as Complan 8888, is a United States Department of Defense Strategic Command Concept of Operations document. This probably seems like the most random entry ever, but the document actually focuses on hypothetical scenarios of zombie attacks. And as you're probably wondering, yes, there is a reference to Plants vs. Zombies in the document. It's really quite cool, and I wonder if any other government documents reference the PvZ franchise. Fisherman Zombie was a zombie in PvZ Journey to the West, and part of the game until being replaced by Spider Devil Zombie. However, the reason this entry is so far down is because a lot of people aren't even sure if the zombie is real. On the PvZ wiki, there was a lot of discussion over whether or not it ever existed, with the main argument for being fake at the start is that it simply looked fake. At some point, one of the admins of the PvZ Plush wiki asked James Gortzman, the former general manager of PopCap's Asia Pacific branch, if Fisherman was real or not. Gortzman asked the art director if she recognized Fisherman, and she said no, and he then followed up by saying he thinks it's fan art. Funnily enough though, there wasn't an art director on Journey to the West until after Fisherman was replaced, so there's no way that the art director, who we don't know the name of, would know about a Fisherman zombie. We now know that it's real based on some other evidence too. Concept art of Fisherman made by Gregory Metzler, no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, was made public in late 2014, which is supposedly after Fisherman was removed. Also, Colorful Wish, a TalkWeb employee and the current community manager, did confirm that Fisherman was in the game at some point. It's just kind of insane that the devs who literally made this zombie think it's fake. Post-production NJ here, this one entry I only added after I did everything else here, so this one really obscure reference has to be one of the best ones I've ever seen. In the Z-Tech Uzivar map in Battle for Neighborville, you can find a Garden Warfare 1 game box on the ceiling. At first you'd think they just want to honor its ancestor in a silly way, but it goes deeper than that. In 2015, a reporter from the popular website Kotaku made a post titled, "Why There's an Xbox One Game Stuck to My Ceiling." There, he narrates how he was too afraid of a spider and used the first firm, flat thing he could find to squish the spider. That would be a Garden Warfare 1 box. And because of how he sprayed adhesive on it, it stuck to the ceiling. The reporter kept updating the article until the 17th of August 2020, stating that it was still there after 5 years. It most likely is still there, 2 years after the final update. And Battle for Neighborville devs found this to be legendary enough to put it in their game, as one cool little secret. Saving the best for last, there are unused Frostbite Caves expansion zombies. These are heavily gatekept by certain people in the PvZ community, apparently because if these zombies become public, the TalkWeb employee who leaked them would be fired. I don't necessarily believe that story, especially since these screenshots date back to 2019, but it's whatever. First off, there's a Brickhead variant, just like with every other expansion. There's also a Hunter Zombie variant, a Troglobite variant, and a Weasel Hoarder variant. The only one of these that we can confirm is real is the Weasel Hoarder, due to how TalkWeb accidentally used it instead of the regular Weasel Hoarder on their Chinese PvZ2 website. But I see no reason as to why 3 of these are fake and only 1 is real. Apparently nothing more than the art for a Frostbite Cave expansion was made, so there isn't much more to see here. There's 2 more zombies that were unused from a modern day expansion, those being a Super Fanip variant and an All-Star variant. The Super Fanip, strangely, was using a couple of memes that TalkWeb made, so we know that's real too. And there you have it. That's our Plants vs. Zombies Iceberg. As I mentioned at the start of the video, this definitely isn't everything, and for a franchise that's existed for over 13 years, there's bound to be information that very few people know about. So, In Butterfelden, our Discord server, there will be a category dedicated to expanding the Iceberg. If you want to add something, don't be afraid to join. You can find how it works in the Iceberg Rules channel. Also, 2 of the people who helped me make this video, Patriotic Pea and a random Chinese, are currently making their own PvZ1 Iceberg video. I'll let y'all know when that comes out. Well, I don't really have much else to say. Once again, thank you to everyone who helped me make this video, and thank you so much for watching to the end. See you in the next one.